Dun, 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 dun. You can tell I'm a little excited about tonight. Okay, so first off, oh my God, my glasses are fogging up. If everyone can just go on mute, I forgot to say that, but I am like so excited because I have a lot of my no longer first timers on the call. And then I have a lot of you guys that we've been emailing back and forth, or I just saw you in Boston, or I just saw you last night on the anti-cruelty call. But yeah, so if everyone can go on mute, and then before we get started, I'm just going to do a quick little survey for our first timers out there. Okay, let me just put the poll out. I'm going to do it at the beginning and the end. It was supposed to be easy to find. Okay, if you guys can just answer this question. There's no right or wrong answer. Okay, this is where I came up with SCITED, scared and excited. Okay, let's see. I forgot to check to see how many folks we had on here. Okay. Okay, so I had, just write that down. Okay, let's get down to business. Okay, so the reason I have this this type of clinic specifically for first timers, although I do have some many timers that attend it, is I started when I started coaching, I would about 12 years ago, I would have a kickoff clinic to get everyone, you know, all excited and share some of my tips and tricks about what the season's going to look like. And most of the folks that would come were first timers. And I thought I was like speaking Mandarin when I said, I've done 100 marathons, 100 plus. And I just realized that I think it would be better if I had like my future or my second timers share their experience from their first marathon, instead of someone who ran their first marathon in 1994, which some of you probably weren't even born yet. So that's where the First Timer Friday clinic came from. And then like I'm doing an in-person one next Friday at the Arc'teryx here in Chicago on Rush Street. And so from next Friday until the New York Marathon, I will highlight one of my first timers on social media because I just feel like somebody watching who doesn't think they can do a marathon will relate to one of my first timers. So that's where this came from. And I'm grateful for my panelists to be here and all of you guys that are future second timers that are here. So just real quickly, a little bit about my background for those of you guys that don't know me yet. I started running in the 4th grade and it's been my best friend ever since. It was my first therapist, and I didn't know that in 4th grade because I didn't know such a thing as therapy, but it just always made me feel better about myself. You know, I ran in high school, cross country track team. It still continues to bring friends in my life, and it's been my mode of transportation and seeing the world. And I kind of mentioned this before the call started, that running, and in particularly, ooh, that's a long word. I can't believe I didn't screw it up. I'm on my 3rd coffee, but when I started doing marathons, it helped me see what else was possible within me, but I'll get there. So I always thought, and I don't know if any of you guys can relate, that a marathon was just for people that like competed at the state level in high school, or they got a scholarship. So I never thought I could do one because I wasn't very fast. Like people that ran in high school and they were fast, they rightfully still know their times. I don't even know what distance I ran in track, and I don't even remember if it was a 2-mile or a 3-mile race in cross country. But that's why I never thought I could do it. And then back in 1993, my older sister Debbie, who I would run with all the time, I think the most we had done was a half marathon, the Motorola half, which used to be in the fall here in Chicago. We would do that. Well, in 1993, she came home from the Chicago Marathon and had her medal on, and just a glow. I have chills, and I have like long pants on. But the 27-year-old Denise said, what the piss, if she can do it, I can do it. But the older, wiser, more reflective Denise said, what she did and what you guys do is she turned something I thought was superhuman and made it human. And going back to why I highlight a first timer on social media every Friday, same thing. I want other people to see someone just like them, or someone going through the same thing, that they did it and you can do it too. So I did my first marathon in 1994, and I even got a medal to prove it. Look how tiny. But I hit Comiskey and I said uppercase, bold font, never again. But as most of us on this call, and you know, the other 29,000 runners at the Chicago Marathon, we said, oh, we got to do that again. And I feel like 90% of us say we're never going to do another one. It's just one and done. And only 10% are the people that check it off their list. And they didn't train with me, so they didn't have fun along the way. And that's why they're one and doneers. But the pain went away, and the sense of accomplishment just totally outshined that, outweighed it. What it did is it turned the I can't into what else can I do. And all growing up, I felt like I was never X enough. And then I finally found an X in running when a couple years later, I did a couple more marathons on my own, and then I found a coach and a running group, and my coach got me crazy fast, and that's when I found an X. But then gratefully, I got hit by a car August 16th, 2009, and gratefully I survived. I'm here, but that is what led me to giving this talk tonight and becoming a coach. Just surviving that accident is what made me want to give back to running for what it has and continues to give to me. So I'm running my 135th marathon this Sunday, because I still want to see if I like these. But like I mentioned, it's been my way to see the world. I've run on all 7 continents, even Everest Marathon. But I think that's enough about me. I just want to talk real quick before I turn it over to my panelists. You know, for those of you that might be a little, oh, I forgot to tell you. So the other thing that marathon did, and what it does, I see it in my runners, is that first marathon, because a lot of people will ask, you know, what's your favorite marathon out of all the ones you've done? And nothing ever will, nothing will ever come close to my first. I have chills. I'm giving myself chills. Because what it did is it just ignited this little empowerment engine within me. And it's the same thing in my clients. It's that little empowerment engine has been waiting to be lit. And then it organically has led me to do other things I didn't think I could do. Like I've done two and a third Ironmans, because one of the Ironmans, I'm deathly afraid of open water. I quit the swim during an Ironman, so that's why I say it's 2 1/3. I jumped off of a bungee ledge, and I'm afraid of heights. I jumped out of a plane. I used to be so shy, I wouldn't even talk to myself. And I took improv classes. But the most important thing that first marathon got me to do, that I was so, this is where SCITED came from. I left my career of 26 years in accounting to be a full-time coach, because I just want to truly, I want to help people see what else is possible from scary start lines in and out of sport. And that morning when I was leaving my last day in corporate America, I call it decorporated. I just wrote a quick post on my Facebook page, and I put, I was scared about what lies ahead. And then I put, but I'm so excited about what lies ahead. And then I go, I'm SCITED. And then I talk to myself a lot. And I said, that's how my first timers are. And then I realized anytime we do something the first time that also has that little knot in your gut, like, I don't know if I should proceed, but I want, because you don't know if you're going to be successful. It's SCITED. But I feel like when you go forward with that and don't let fear win, that's when you find out, you know, what else was possible. And that's where the transformation happens. So going back to your first marathon, I have to say, you guys haven't even crossed the finish line yet. And I'm already proud of you because one, you're doing something you've never done before. And that takes a lot of courage. And also, you're not a paid athlete, at least I don't think you are. So no one's telling you to do this. You're consciously choosing to do something you've never done before. And you don't know how it's going to turn out. I do. All of us many timers do. It's going to be life igniting. But a lot of times I'll meet people that say, you know, I can't do a marathon. You know, whenever someone says has the word marathon in the vocabulary, they never should have said it around me because there's a reason why they said it. And then I just tell them, you know, it's just like taking a class. Same with, you know, training for a triathlon or you know, freaking learning Adobe Pro or whatever. You get a syllabus, you do your homework, and then the race day is the final. It truly is that methodical. And the only people that fail are the ones that didn't have the courage to show up and do something they've never done before. And so what's going to happen, and I see this a lot with my runners, is that my first timers is that, you know, you may be more scared than excited. And what happens is once you, you know, my training starts, most trainings for the Chicago Marathon at least starts the first week in June. And then the race is October 9th. And then I have some folks that are doing New York, some are doing Berlin. But what happens is once you get the training, you're so caught up in that, you don't have time to be scared until like the eve of your longest run ever. But what happens is those long runs, those are like take-home quizzes. And every time you do your furthest distance, you gain more and more confidence. And one of my, I have so many favorite things about the training season in that near the end of the season, in my no longer first timers will say, near the end of the season, they'll say on the long run, oh, we only had to do 14. Who says that? Isn't that awesome? But I bet you Illuminati's Pizza, you will say that near the end of your training season when you only see a 14-mile long run. Okay, so I gotta jump to the fun part. Okay, I had to take notes so I don't. Okay, so now I'm gonna go to my panelists. Well, I'm gonna talk just real quick about race day. One thing, I know it's a ways out. And also I forgot, in September, I'll have another clinic in person here in Chicago and then online, and I'll post it on my social media pages. But I'll also have a clinic probably second week of September, where I'll talk about what to do race week and race day and post race. But the only thing I recommend for race day is to take it all in. Because again, I've done gazillion marathons and you can never repeat those feels. So for your race, just have fun and don't put any pressure on yourself. Some people will, you know, come to me like, what time should I shoot for and what pace? And it's like, you can never recreate the experience of your first marathon. So just get a PR and fun. That's my advice. So I'm gonna pass the mic to my no longer first timers, and we'll do it one at a time. And if you guys just wanna, you know, just share your experience, like what made you sign up? What would you tell someone who didn't think they could do it? What did you think when you saw 20 miles as a training run on your plan? You know, what was your running experience before? So I'll just go real quick with Mary.
Okay, hi. I will tell you, I started running in 2016, and the very last thing I ever thought I would say 2 days before my 65th birthday is, so I'm here to tell you that exactly 6 months ago, I ran my first marathon. And yeah, do the math, I was 64 and a half years old.
Yes.
And yeah, I actually signed up for a training. I didn't have any, because of my age, there were no running programs in my, in my school. Title IX came in. I mean, there wasn't even a track team to my senior year. And then I was working, couldn't do it. So I never had those opportunities. So I actually started 2016. My goal, I wanted to run a 5K with my kids, the turkey trot. And yeah, so that was what I thought I'd do. And then it kind of went from there. And I, during the pandemic, a few of us, a very small group of us, including Ambika, who you will hear from in a little bit, we got out together. We lived in Northern Virginia. I lived there at the time. And we started running together, and we started running, and we actually ran a few virtual half marathons. And we also got to know some women from a 261 Fearless group. And one of the women there, Rita, who knew Denise.
Yes, she's running for Girls on the Run again.
Yay. Oh yeah, she's a big supporter of Girls on the Run.
Great whisperer.
Yeah, and she was the one who connected us with Denise.
She sent you guys my book.
Yes, and we were on a Zoom with you. And then, a year ago, okay, so Ambika and I decided we were going to do this. We were going to do the Marine Corps Marathon. Okay. And, so a year ago in May, it's great. We're starting these Zooms and they're fun. And we started a little bit of training, but, the long runs aren't that long, and it's not that, it's not that hot outside. It's great. It's pretty cool. And then we got to August, and I know Ambika remembers this day. We were actually running in Ashburn, which is one of the flatter places in Northern Virginia, as opposed to Reston and Sterling. And it was hot and it was humid, and we were both tired. And we both, I think, had a little wonky stomachs, and we were supposed to run 13. Well, actually, Denise, you had 13.1, because why not, on the schedule. And we walked, 9 miles and we walked the last 4 miles, and we always walk, but we weren't, we walked completely. And then, on the outside, I'm telling Ambika, we're okay. And on the inside, I'm thinking, how are we going to do twice this? We can't even do this. How are we going to? But the next week, we had, I think it was a 14. And as soon as we got to 10 miles, I turned to Ambika and I said, okay, we've already done better than we did last week. And we did great. And that's the thing. One of the things I will warn you about is you're going to have some training runs, long runs, that are not going to be good. They aren't. And for whatever reason, but you can come back. And that was actually a really, later on, after we ran longer runs and they went well, I was really glad that happened. Our 18 miler, as I recall, also was tough, but we came back and did our 20. And yeah, that will happen. You can have a bad day, you can have a run that doesn't work the way, maybe it's weather or whatever, but you can. So if you have that, especially when the runs are getting longer and it's hot in the summer, don't get discouraged. Really, you will recover from that. You will come back. You can do it. We also had roll with the unexpected. We had a few unexpected things, and one involved our medals. I'm gonna actually let Ambika tell you that story. And I'm wearing mine, she's wearing hers. But the other thing is, we were going to do the Marine Corps Marathon in DC very iconic race, right? And so I don't know. I guess the race was supposed to be actually Halloween Day, October 31st, like something like September 24th, 25th. I was ironically on the way into DC. I'm looking at my social media. I was a passenger. I was not at the wheel. Okay. And I see that the Marine Corps Marathon has gone virtual. And we were like, no, we are not doing, I mean, people do a first marathon virtual, but we're like, no how, no way. We want crowd support. We need water stations and porta potties and everything. Yeah. So, but we had also signed up for the Richmond Marathon as a backup, thinking if we ran, my thoughts were, if I do the Marine Corps Marathon, then, I can pivot and do maybe the half in Richmond, as a little extra, because it was like 3 weeks later. Well, we kind of pivoted and we did Richmond, and Richmond was fantastic. I know the Marine Corps Marathon was a little bit of a disappointment because it is one of those iconic races, but Richmond was wonderful. The crowd support, it wasn't as big a race. And for me, this was a funny thing too. And I don't know if any of the first timers have this, but all of the races I had run to that point had been local, like Northern Virginia, like in Reston or Ashburn, literally. And all of a sudden I was going out of town, had to stay overnight. I had never been in like a big race like that before. And this was my first marathon. So Richmond was a great first marathon. In fact, it's recommended as one. And there, by the way, if you don't have a race now and you're looking for one, a couple of things there. I just checked before we got on here. Registration is still open. And if you're concerned about time, there is a 16-minute time limit, which is pretty per mile generous, which is pretty generous time limit. So I'm just saying, I'm throwing that out there. Also, Medtronic Twin Cities Marathon, which is going to be real close to where I am, and I'm going to be watching it. I'm not going to run, but I'm going to be watching it. That also is still open registration right now. That's October 2nd. I think it's the same day as Chicago. If you didn't get it
before.
Chicago. I'm sorry.
It's a week before Chicago.
A week before. Okay.
Yeah.
So
you
those
are both.
Yeah, those are two really good. I've heard good things about that. You get to run around some of the lakes that are like right by where I live, and it's really pretty. I was running there today. So if you don't have a race, there are still some really good races open. But Richmond was wonderful. We stayed at the Marriott, which, I think I saw like one person who was like not a runner or with a runner, and the guy looked like totally what the heck, because everybody else was running either the marathon, the half, or I think they had like an 8K. And so, and you just walk from Marriott there over to the start line, like 2 blocks. How easy can that be? You can't get lost. But anyway, it was so much fun. The crowd support, it's a beautiful city. It's fairly flat. And we knew this, it's downhill at the end. It really is. They say that, and it's true. It is really incredible crowd support. Some stuff I just did not expect. Like there were actually a few bands playing live music. They just come out and play. One point, Ambika and I were singing. I don't remember what song it was. It was like a song everybody knows. We were singing and running. And they had great aid stations. They also had other people coming out. We were offered all kinds of stuff, candy, beer. My very favorite, and Denise actually has a book about signs, but this was one of my favorite at Richmond. There was this table full of drinks and music playing, and it said mimosas and Beyonce. I mean, can you beat that? I didn't take a mimosa because I was not sure my stomach. But no, it was really, really great. And the hardest part for me was mile not 20, not so much 20, although it got windy around there. But the hardest part was, I think, around miles 21 to 24. That was tough. That was a lot of walk. But once we got about to 24, all of a sudden there were more people again, more spectators. And we knew we were near the finish. We knew that downhill. And that was when I remember I turned to Ambika and I said two things. And the first one is, we don't have to return the finisher jackets. And we're wearing them now. We didn't have to return them because we finished. And the second thing I said is, I've still got run in these legs, because miles 21 to 24, I'll tell you a little hint. I had so much. I had so many pockets and a waist pocket, and I had my Nathan water bottle handheld, partly because although there were water stations, I wanted to put like gels and stuff in the back. What I really wanted that I didn't bring was some Motrin. I would have done a lot for 3 or 4 Motrin on those miles, because I felt like every bone in my body hurt. But the funny thing is, the last 2 miles, when we started running again and we were going on that downhill and we knew we were finishing, I didn't hurt anymore. I don't know where it went. It went somewhere, but it was, that hurt just left my body, because by that time it was so exciting and I knew we were doing this and we were finishing together, because we did all our long runs together and we're friends. And this was just the perfect thing. And it was so great. I read something a few days ago that was really good. It was because our time, we had a goal time. We did not make our goal time, but you know what? It's still our PR, because we only had 1 marathon. And you know what? We finished, and we finished. We're marathoners. We're 1%ers. And I read something that was so great the other day. It was sort of like randomly on social media, but somebody was saying, I never ask anybody their time in a marathon. That's boring. And unless you're like running, hitting some like world record, American record, that it is. What's interesting are their stories. And that really is the interesting part, is what goes on, what you see, the mimosas and the Beyonce and music and all the people yelling. I had this little sticker on my bib. I don't know if you can see it's hot pink.
Raise it up a little. Yeah.
It's hot pink down here that says first timer. And people in Richmond saw that. And so they knew I was a first timer. And that was like something they saw that. And then they were really excited. And people want you to do well. They're out there and they're cheering you. And it's so great. I mean, the crowd support. And, a couple of words of advice, though, besides the Motrin, is, and this is something I learned on my 20 miler. I know Denise will talk about nutrition and food later, but, besides the gels and that kind of stuff, is you're out there for a long time, especially we were out there for a long time. I got hungry. And I knew that from my 20 milers. So I actually had a peanut butter sandwich. I had half in my pocket. And then my husband, both of our husbands met us at the 20-mile mark. And my husband had the other half in my backpack. So yeah, I wasn't hungry. So that was good. I wish I had brought the Motrin. Another thing that was in that backpack, I had packed it, he just carried. And this was at the end. I had packed my UFOs, sandals, slides. And so after the race, I took my shoes off and I put those on, and that felt real good. And I would definitely recommend something like that too. I'm glad I did that, but wish I'd had the Motrin. But anyway, so these are kind of some of my stories. And I figure too, it took us a while, but I figure we have better stories than people who run it in like 2.5 hours, because we had a longer time. We saw more. We had more time, and we met people on the way. We talked to people and they were great, and it was so exciting. It was so fun. It really was. And Another thing I'd recommend is buying the pictures, because sometimes if you have a friend or family member or somebody or if you're like me and you're just not good at taking selfies, the professional, and in some races you can do the pack ahead of time. I actually did that. I ran the New York half this year in March, and I met Denise for a donut run the day before, and I bought the picture pack, which was, I know they are expensive, but it was so worth it because I got some great pictures. And you want to remember this. This is something you want to remember, and I highly recommend that, because they'll take a bunch of pictures and you'll have, even if you're not photogenic, and I know all about that, you'll get some good pictures. So that's what I want to say mostly. I don't want to take up too much time, but if you do still need a race, Richmond Marathon, that's like November 12th, or
And there's a half.
Yeah. And yes, and Twin Cities has a whole bunch. There's a half, I think a 10K, maybe a 5K, and that's on October 2nd. So those marathons are still accepting registrations. Twin Cities has a 6-hour time limit. And like I said, Richmond, at least last year, was 16-minute miles averaging. So, if you're concerned about time, which was a concern for us. So yeah, but it was great. It was a great adventure. I'm glad I did it. I don't have any races signed up for right now this year due to a number of issues. I won't be running anything long, but never say never. I learned that.
Well, you have a lot on your plate right now. So
I do. I really do. And most of it's really good. So
yes, all good stuff.
It's good stuff. But yeah, so it was great though. Yeah.
Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I think Joanna, if you wanna share your story, and I see you have your St. Jude shirt on too.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Denise. Yes, I am. I was running with Denise. It was my first marathon last year, and I did with St. Jude, supporting St. Jude Hospital here in Chicago. I'm living in Chicago.
Well, actually, let me correct you. So Joanna lives probably an hour and a half from where our group meets on Saturday for the long run, and she would come into the city. So she is hardcore.
Yeah, I live in suburbs. I usually say Chicago, but I live in suburbs. Yeah.
No, but I'm just saying how, you didn't have a 10-minute drive.
Yeah, yeah, I had to get up 4 in the morning on Saturdays, but I didn't care, because when I was thinking I'm running with a group, it's so much enjoyment, and I love our city, and especially being with a group, it's like so exciting. So for me, it was like, yeah, Saturday's here. And I was training with Denise. This was my first marathon. I always dream of accomplishing marathon. I've never done it before. I'm a runner for, let's say, I've been running 16 years. And my longest distance before, it was a half marathon. And I would do I would have my, usually, how do you call it? It's just like schedule runs every year. I would start my running season with Shamrock Shuffle 8K, then I would do half marathon, then I would do 15K, some 10, always jump into some smaller runs, which I really enjoy. But marathon, I was always scared. I'm like, no, hell no, I won't do any marathon. I'm like, I couldn't even picture it when I was thinking of the distance. And my first entry, I actually bailed at it, and the last minute I deferred 2 years ago. So last year I told myself, no, I have to find a group of people who were doing it. And I was fortunate and lucky to find a group of people and find Denise. She's an amazing coach, and I'm so thankful in my heart, because thanks to you, I was able to stay on task. and Denise will give you guys big boost of energy too. I'll tell you this, it's very exciting. You don't want to miss the runs, because it's so much fun and joy, and always something fun. And we go for donuts too.
I was just telling our new coach, Berkeley, she's on the call. She's going to be helping us. She's going to be coaching on Saturdays. So I was telling her how
awesome.
it's not all work. We have fun too, and she's all for that. So sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. So the reason I'm running, I was born with a heart problem as a child, and I wanted to start running because I felt like it doesn't matter, I can't run, and I wanted to prove myself like I can do it. So marathon was a little scary, but also challenged, but not something exciting for me. And I also have a few other reasons why I was running it, because I have such a sometimes doubt in myself. So I thought if I run and make it to marathon, we can basically, it's a proof we can achieve anything we want in our life, right? So I'm like, even like I couldn't picture it. I couldn't see myself on the end of the finish line, but I thought like it's like many other things. So if I do this and I'll make it, anything else is impossible in life.
Yes.
So it helps. It's amazing change for your mindset. It's really empowering. And I've been doing lots of other things. I'm an artist. I work as a professional artist. So I started running, training to marathon, starting running my business officially the same year. So it was very encouraging running because I also have my mindset and staying on the tasks, you know, and building into better than every single day. And I also did it because of my mom. My mom's my angel in heaven, and she always wanted us be the best in our lives. So I thought, look, hey, I know you're going to be proud of me doing this because I'm putting all myself, and I'm like, you always wanted us children to accomplish the best, be your best in your life. So it was lots of cause I was running and with thought and of supporting hospital was another cause. It was very special for my heart. So that's it. There you go. And for the experience, I think it's amazing. I'll never ever forget this marathon. And I'll tell you this, that even training to it was even more fun than my marathon itself, because for me, I could see this amazing transformation. Meantime, the training, like when you go and start training every week, right? You think like, okay, and you see that we have conversation that in September we're running 20 miles. I remember it used to freak me out. I'm like, hell no, 20? I'm hardly doing 10. I'm hardly doing 15. I can't see 20. Once I finally did one day 17 miles, I'm like, wait a minute, I just ran 17 miles. How did that happen? Like if you get in the rhythm of training, you don't even think about it. And you want to go for your train because you're so addicted to it that you just look for next day to go training or next other day, right? And when we were talking about 20 milers, I remember it was like 2 weeks to it. I was still like in this foggy vision, like, I don't see it, forget it. No, I don't know. I have no idea how it's gonna happen. I don't remember, Denise, I told you, like, I can't do it. It was crazy, right? And then the day came, we did 20 milers on mile 19. I'm like, wait a minute, 1 more mile and I'm 20. That's crazy. So that was a breakthrough. And it was like, if I did 20, marathon is nothing. And it is such a beautiful feeling because like everyone has a different approach and a feeling when you run. I turn off my thinking. For me, it's like meditation. I'm just flying. I don't even think something is hurting me. I just go free. I remember long runs were like therapy for anything for me, you know, so and fun and going with people. And once you cross the finish line and the marathon day, it's a big shock. It's like, wow, I actually did this. I remember crossing the finish line, guys. I had my partner waiting there for me. I had to find him. My phone died. I'm like, how am I gonna find him? And I knew he was also like somewhat with me because he's a marathoner himself. And he was like waiting there, like very excited to see, you know. And then when I saw him, and it occurred to me, when I saw him, like, oh my gosh, I really finished marathon. I couldn't stop my tears. I was just crying like a baby, you know. Aww. We get this on the phone. I'm like, yeah, it is so great feeling. And so what I would say, stick to your plan, stay consistent to your trainings. And if you feel tired, I skipped 3 weeks of training. And actually that 3 weeks, I was a little afraid that I'm off of the training balance. But what I found out that 3 weeks break was for me good rest and move forward. So listen to your body. That's my advice. Listen to your body, what tells you, because your body knows the best what you're doing. If there are bananas, never skip banana. This is a power snack on the marathon day, right? So, and the crowd is amazing. I loved all the people. I still have my bib, and I had my name on my shirt in the front. So if you put your name, I recommend this because people see your name and they cheer for you. They don't know you, but they cheer for you, and they're so amazing. And the whole course is full of people encouraging you. You feel tired, like you can do it. It's really beautiful. So it is amazing. I'll never forget the first marathon. I am so thankful I did it. And thank you, Denise, for being this amazing at-heart coach and leading us towards the best.
It was always in you. Your mom knew it.
Yeah, I guess.
And now you've whispered to a bunch of your friends, they can do it too.
Oh yeah, we're doing it this
Marathon
year.
weekend.
Yep, we are now. We got so excited after last year that we are like, yeah, we're running this year. We're running with St. Jude again. We are like, yes, we are on mission.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Joanna.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So next up, literally this girl is right off her marathon course. Angie just did her first marathon last month. So Angie's gonna jump in and share her story.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, before Angie jumps in, I just want to say, so Angie had read my book and reached out to me, and she's the first runner I've worked with who was signed up for a practice marathon before her first marathon. Okay, I'll pass it to you. Go ahead.
Thanks, Denise. So I
Let me
just,
see your medal.
okay, right here. And I did it actually less than a month ago. And I'm 59 and a half. So, you know, I had done a few half marathons in the last, 10 years on an, and I'm not fast. And what I ended up and happened was the race I had planned to run is in 2 days, but it had a 6-hour cutoff time, and I was a little concerned that I couldn't make the 6-hour cutoff time. So the training race that I was just going to practice with had a 6.5-hour cutoff. So I decided I need to run that one for the real race and just know that I have 30 extra minutes, right? So I actually ran it in 5 hours and 57 minutes. So and I actually did a personal best on the first half of it, but then I slowed down quite a bit because I just ran out of gas kind of. And I ran the downhill parts and walked the uphill parts. But my husband was so great I had my GPS on, so he would find me and check in, and he was just super supportive. But
And how many miles did he do that day, Ange?
He did 4 miles with me in one block, but I think his step count was 15,000.
Yeah.
So, but let's see. I think I want to share just kind of, Denise was great. She helped help me. She, kind of pointed me in the right directions. And I had things that were, like I had feet problems. So I had I needed to get new orthotics. I ended up and tried like 3 or 4 pair of shoes before I found a pair that were wide enough that I wouldn't get numbness, So those were all things that I had to, and also I learned how to tape my feet. That was super helpful. So if you're having problems, just keep working, trying to find workarounds, so that you can keep going. And I also would wear an ankle brace just kind of for safety, just kind of to help myself know that was helpful. Also, I was having some some stomach issues, so I had to find the right fuel that wouldn't bother my stomach, and that was easy enough to do. I just make sure and practice your fuel on your runs so that you know what your body will easily tolerate. Another thing that was good for me, I think, was that this race that I did run was a really small run. I think there were only 50 some odd people in the race. There were like 150 half marathoners, but I mean, much smaller race than what I guess you guys have been talking about. But though I like people, I'm pretty introverted, and people take a lot of energy from me. So I think having a small race was really a good decision for me because I wasn't kind of overwhelmed with all the people energy. Though, I'm kind of curious as to what it would be like to, I mean, I've done halves with like the rock and roll thing, so I do kind of know that, but that's another thing. Now I'm backing off and trying to train in my aerobic zone because I didn't have a really good base in my aerobic zone. So I ended up and did almost my whole marathon in anaerobic zone,
Oh my
which was
goodness.
really probably harder on my body than if I had really known more about this. Maybe I would have tried to train in a slower heart rate for a while. The other thing, like Joanna mentioned, is all those parts of us that there's voices inside of us that say we can't do it, that we're lazy, that we don't have what it takes or whatever. During the training, that was a good chance for me to work with those parts and heal them so that I lost a lot of the insecurities that I had underneath it that don't normally show up, but that showed up throughout the training process. So that's another good way to like really heal some deep stuff that you're carrying. Let's see, what else would I like to say? Yeah, I think that was all on my list. Denise, can you think of anything else that I
Yeah.
should talk about?
What was your running background? Like, how long have you been running? I know you had done a
Yeah.
couple halves before you committed to the full.
Yeah, so just a little more background is, I mean, I have lost over 100 pounds and I've kept it off. Actually, I lost it 3 times, and the last time I lost it was in 2003, and I've kept it off since then. But I mean, I have been a big girl in my life. And then about 2011, 2012, I started running just kind of as a way to be fit. And then
Did you ever
eventually I
think
did.
you'd run a marathon when you first started running?
No, it was like a secret dream in the
Oh,
deepest part of my heart that, wouldn't that be like amazing? In fact, at Christmas, I was talking to my son and I mentioned that I had this very deep secret thing. And he's like, well, why don't you? And I'm like, well, I have these feet. And then I decided, if I'm ever going to do it, I need to do it, But now that I know that it's certainly possible, it's not even all that hard, there'll
it's
be
methodical,
more in my
right?
future. I mean, just like the way you felt about your half marathon, like when it felt so daunting, it's the same way with the marathon. Once you've done it, it's like, okay, all right,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
And
yeah,
so,
yeah.
oh, go ahead.
So anyway, so I ran some 5Ks and then a 10, but like I mean, I just would kind of run, several times a week, but it was just mainly for my fitness, and then I decided to bite off a half marathon and but I mainly did like this run walk cycle for most of those years, like a 4-minute run and then a 1-minute walk, that sort of thing.
And then, what did you think when you saw the finish line?
So I think the thing that was struck me so much was how loud the cheering was when
Yeah.
I crossed the finish line. I'd never remembered that much cheering at any of the other races. And I just felt so much a sense of accomplishment because I had
Yeah.
worked toward this. So I'd been so dedicated and worked for solid time, a
Yeah.
solid block of time. And I was just really proud of myself. I was just
Hell
so proud of
yeah.
myself. Yeah. And if I
Um,
can do it, you can do it. I swear. I promise.
Awesome. And I love a couple of things, that you talked about in that, during the training, and not just your first, but even training for a 5K half, it's like you are your own guinea pig. You figure out like what shoes work for you, what bra, what chafing products, what nutrition. So you're your own guinea pig. And also, like, you phrased it so well that um, I've said this before, that there's this saying, you are the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? And for me, one of those 5 is all of you athletes, runners, triathletes, because that's where, well, mainly runners, because I haven't done a tri in a while, but you know, whether I'm coaching or at a race, I'm always around runners. And who would not want to be around people with drive and commitment? Because again, no one's telling us to lace up. And then the last 20%, 20 to 25% of every run, I feel, in every race, is when we go to battle with that voice inside our head where, you know, this sucks, you should quit. And we power through, so that you guys are my 1%. But yeah, and that's where like we find out what else is possible when we do things that, you know, that give us that knot in our stomach and we say, heck yeah, we're doing it anyway. Yeah. Well, I know Angie's got to jump off real quick. But I want to do a group pick while everyone's still on, if we can do that. Okay, do I got everyone in? Okay, so let's all like, woo, or high five, or whatever you want to do. 262. Awesome. Okay. Okay, thank you so much, Angie.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll
yeah.
be in touch. You got your next marathon, September 17th, I think.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good luck, everybody.
Okay. Okay, so next up, let's go to Ilian.
Hi. I didn't realize I missed those calls so much.
Right?
It was so nice to hear the update from Mary. We went through all their training and Amika and all that.
Hi, Eliane. Yeah, it's great to see you.
Yeah, you know, I think that was my favorite part of the training last year, to this community. I'm not in Chicago, I'm in Miami. So I did all my training by myself. I didn't have the community, but being able to connect every week in this call and seeing everybody's updates and talking with Denise every week and all that, it was amazing. I will not change anything for it. I originally signed up for 2020. And the reason I signed up is because I always thought everybody should run a marathon. You know, like, why not? It should be, people should write a book, plant a tree. I'm not planning to write no book. Yeah, I can plant a tree, but I'm like, oh, let me leave it to I don't know, to luck. And I signed up for the lottery in Chicago. It was my first time signing up. And when I got the confirmation email, I almost got a heart attack. I didn't know if I should cry or be happy or what. So that was in December 2019. So right there, I started looking. That's how I found Denise, the book, through Facebook and all that. And I'm like, okay, I think I need some guidance. We all know what happened in 2020.
Yes.
And I'm like, originally, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do this virtual. And then I'm like, no, there's no way I'm doing this virtual. I'm gonna hard pass. My body was not responding. And as Joanna said, you have to listen to your body. So I had a conversation with Denise. I had so many injuries during the training. It wasn't working. And I'm like, okay, Denise, I think we're just gonna stop for now and recap next year. So in 2021, I will never forget, I don't know what I was thinking. I was so thankful that I had Denise in my life and everything set up, because one day I get my training plan and I'm like, oh, Denise is very good. She's saying, I can start training eventually. And when I look at it, I'm like, is Denise crazy? Why is this training plan starting next week? So yeah, it was already 20 weeks before the plan. So that's the good thing when you have a Denise in your life, that she reminds you that in 20 weeks, you are going to be running a marathon. So that was amazing. It was hard to train during the summer in Miami.
Yes.
It was horrible. I don't wish that to my worst enemy. Running at 4 in the morning, but it was already 80, 90 degrees. It was horrible. So because of that, I pulled the trigger, Denise, and I have an amazing treadmill now. So I have no excuse. It's like, it was bad. It was bad. And I was just thinking, I don't know if Denise asked me to come to this call with a double intention, because I have not signed up for another marathon. Now listening to everybody, I even like put like the Richmond in there, and I'm like, oh shoot, like I'm like, ugh. Yeah, Denise always have like, she have
Hidden
always got it.
agendas.
Yeah, she doesn't do anything with no second intention. So I love my marathon so much. I did everything Denise told me to the T. I had a blast that day. It was so difficult for me to get there that day. If you are not local, and if you live in another place and you have to fly to your destination, I originally was planning to go on Thursday night, and the event was on Sunday. That was my original plan. Of course, it didn't work out because I had a family emergency, which almost stopped me to going to my marathon. But on Friday night, when I was on my airplane heading to Chicago, I was already on the airplane. They canceled my flight. And at that point, I'm like, God, I'm putting this in your hands. It's already very stressful to have to go and run your first marathon. To add the fact that your flight is canceled, all the flights were canceled. A lot of people couldn't make it to the marathon because of that. So I got lucky enough that I was able to get on the first flight on Saturday. There were 2 tickets left. So it was because at that point, I'm like, I don't know. So it was 2 tickets left. I was able to go with my boyfriend, and we got there on Saturday morning. Very stressful, very stressful. So just my biggest advice, if you have to travel, do it with enough time that you can get there and relax and settle. Once I got there, that's exactly what I did. I didn't go around and saw Chicago or anything like that. I just went to the hotel, got my stuff, and went and rest, because, you know, the next day I was going to run a marathon. If you are a first timer, if you're going to run Chicago, I recommend you're going to get an email if it's your first marathon, that they're going to be selling a first timer kit. Get it. I don't care how much is it. Get it. You get your Chicago marathon shirt. In the back, it says your first marathon, and the start line is Chicago. And you can only get it once when it's your first marathon and it's Chicago. So that's a big advice. I will tell you. People will stop me and say, where did you get that shirt? I'm like, I don't know. I just got a link and I got it. So if you happen to get that link, get it right away, because it was sold out very quick. During the event, I did everything Denise said. I enjoy. I have no finish time. I'm not even close to it. Like, I just went for it to have fun. I started very slow, and I high-fived all the kids. I got the candies from the kids, even if I wouldn't eat it. They were so happy. And I just have fun. I have fun. For me, for the first time, I felt what it was, the runner's high. I never had runner's high before. That was my first time with runner high, when you are running, and I don't know, you don't even know. When you realize, it's like, oh shoot, already 3 miles passed by. I felt like I was praying, like being thankful. I have no way to explain it. So just don't worry about anything. Sometimes I was okay with the crowd, and sometimes I have to get on my own. Sometimes it was too much. So just do what works for you. And then the other thing, the support from strangers, like in around mile 21, that's when I really felt like, and mile 20, I don't know what happened. Like, no, mile 22, I don't know what happened. I couldn't breathe. I'm like I couldn't air. Then I kind of like relaxed. And then on mile like 23, something like that, this random girl comes to me. That's when I started struggling, and she comes to me and she's like, let's go. I'm like, no, you go. You are going faster than me. Just keep going. She's like, oh, no. You have pushed me from mile 13.1. All the way from 13.1, I have been following your pace. I'm not going to let you behind now. I look at her I almost started crying because it's like, I've been helping you. Like, she's like, yeah, you have been helping me. I'm like, I'm not gonna leave you here. I'm like, but I have to run and walk. I cannot do it anymore. And she's like, okay, I guess we're gonna run and walk together because I'm not gonna leave you here. That was amazing. Then we kind of went together when I was really struggling. And then when it was like 800 meters, I wanted to cry at 800 meters. I never felt like it felt like so long when I see that in the opposite of Richmond in Chicago. No, it's still not going down, it goes up. So it's like, I see that thing at 800 meters and it felt so close and so far that and at that point I told her, go. She's like, no, I'm like, don't worry, I'm gonna finish. I'm like, I promise you, I'm gonna finish, but you go. And I have a coworker that she's a 800 and 400 meters runner, like she's a professional runner, and all I can think is like, oh my gosh, she can do this in seconds. It's just gonna take me so long to do this 800 meters. I went for it, I finished, and she put the medal on me.
Oh.
She waited for me at the end and she put the medal. We have a picture. She's from Chicago. I always try to find her and thank her because it's like, those are the beautiful experiences that you get in an event like that. Like when stranger people come to you and again, yeah, the shirt, I bought a bib that had my name and say first timer, like first marathon. So people will scream, go Eliana, this is your first one. Like, how does people know my name? And then I remember I have this thing. So it's like so strange when you go through all that. I personally, I am one of those people that I train by myself. I did everything by myself. I'm a kind of, I don't need like that much push to do stuff. Like I'm very, I don't know, self-motivated. I don't know how you call it. I'm an engineer. I kind of like do things on my own. But if you can bring someone that can be with you that day, don't go there alone. I'm very thankful because I was like, no one needs to come with me. I'll do this alone. Don't worry. I'm so thankful I didn't do that because I don't know. You really need someone there to like on mile 13.1, I'm running and then I have somebody telling me like, oh, you're doing good. And when I turned, it was my boyfriend. I'm like, oh my. Like for a couple of seconds, it didn't matter, but it felt like the world to me. It felt like so big. Don't expect anyone, like, just don't expect anything from anyone. Like, let it be natural, but yeah, you need that. And it was hilarious because I didn't see him again ever because he ran out of battery. He couldn't find me anywhere. I never see him again ever until the end. Yeah. And when you finish, at that point, I'm walking with my offals, like the big chancletas and all that, because I already have my bag. I have like drinking, eating and all that. And then he's at the end and you have somebody to hug you and to like, that's priceless. Just if you can, you don't have to, of course, you know, I'm sure we can do all things, but if you can bring support, just do it. It is a big commitment. It's not something that I don't know why. And I don't think Denise told me this. I think I convinced myself that the hardest part was the training. I have no idea where I made that up. Like you do the training, the marathon is easy. I made that up that's how I convinced myself. No, you have to push through the marathon. It's work. It's a commitment. You have to go for it. You have to do it in your personal life and all that. A lot of things change. I will not change any of that for a bit. It was the best time. I like it so much that in my treadmill, they have the Chicago Marathon, like the series from last year. So that's what I just got it like 2 weeks ago. So that's my long run on weekends. I just get there and I run the Chicago Marathon. That's my, like, I love it so much. And
the next time you run on your treadmill, you got to put your race bib on because you're running the Chicago Marathon. You were there.
Yeah. Yeah. They have it like in sections and And I'm like, oh, because I don't remember much of it. It's like there's part that I remember. There are parts that I don't remember. There are parts like I really felt like I was like in a tunnel, and I don't remember much of it. Like it's very strange. But it's so, I don't know. I haven't signed up for anything else. Actually, it's not true. I did sign up for the Chicago for this year. I was not selected, so that was perfect. I did sign up for the half that we're waiting for the one the
women's half.
The women's half. I did sign up for that, and it's another lottery, so it's also in God's hands. But it's the same weekend as the Richmond, so if not, I know I have a plan B now. Richmond is a possibility.
Yes.
I think I want to do a half. I want to do another full, but I don't want to train through the summer. I want to make sure I can start my training like in October, November, when the weather is nice.
Yes. So maybe when Big Sur opens in July, that's in April.
Which one?
Big Sur, the one that I just did, Big Sur,
Okay.
California.
Okay. Yeah, I want to look for something
And
for next
beautiful.
year that I can do, start my training in October, November through the nice weather here.
Yes.
Because I don't want to do all my training for a marathon in a treadmill. So that's the long story short. It's just the best experience ever. I love it. And then everybody tells you, when you tell people you run a marathon, people are like, wow. And no time. I didn't have any expectation with time or anything. Nothing.
Just a good time.
I had a blast.
Yeah.
And after that, you relax and you are like in cloud nine for that.
Yeah, I call it a state of self-awe. Like, holy crap, I did it.
Yeah, but you are there all the time. So
no, but like my first one and my first anything. Yeah.
Don't you feel after you do some of them, do you still feel some of that? Yes, you have to.
Yeah, because like there's rarely a marathon that I don't struggle at. I mean, if I'm helping someone who's like maybe 3 minutes a mile slower, then I'm not struggling because I'm going a slower pace. But most of mine, I still hit a point where I want to quit and I choose to power through. So yeah, every finish line is a gift back to us because I feel like we're winning against the bully inside. Yeah. So just so you know, Ilian, MasterCard still has entries for the New York Marathon. I posted it on my Facebook page, so check it out. Just saying.
2023, I'll
go for the lottery again. Thank you so much. Okay,
Thank
so
you.
Next up, we're gonna have Ambika share her story. Mary's partner in fun.
Sorry, I was talking to my husband about Big Sur and he's giving me a dirty look.
Put him on the call. Let me talk to him.
He says hi.
Hi.
They say hi to you. Sorry, let me just put some light on here. I apologize. Oh, hi. I am the other half of Mary, or Mary's team, I should say. I started running probably about 2017 when I hit 40. I thought, oh my God, I used to be a big walker, but I need to start losing weight to keep my fitness better. So I started to run. So I joined actually Rustin Runners, which is where I met Mary. I remember training and my ladies was like, oh, she can do a 10K as her first run. And I was like, no, I'm doing 5Ks. And I have a friend of mine who's a runner and his wife's like, yeah, it starts with the 5K, then it goes to a 10K, and then you're doing marathons. So she and her husband used to make fun of me about it. So I was like, okay, got through my third 5K and I was like, I'm done. This is not what I want to be doing. So I got to a 10K, I did a 10 miler. And I think Mary and you and I were doing our half marathon and we were training for the Rustin Runners and it was 2020 COVID hit. And Mary, a bunch of us met up, like she said, and she actually ran her first half marathon. And I looked at her and I was like, and she was like, okay, I'm going to try for it. And we said, well, I'll wait for you. And so we all sat there in the parking lot. Mary tells the story better than I'm telling it right now. And we all, we did our 10 miles, come back, and we sat in our cars. And she runs up and she finishes it. And we're like, go, Mary, you did your first half marathon. She did such a great job. So I told my another friend of mine who she and I looked, and I was like, okay, we're doing it next week, the first half marathon. And she's like, what? So Mary ran with part of us, and it's actually on these trails. I live near the WO&D trails over here in Northern Virginia. And my friend and I are like, oh my God, are we going to make it? Are we going to make it? And it was such a nice feeling to finish a half marathon that I thought, okay, I've gotten to my half marathon. I almost did the Army 10 miler, but I had an ankle injury. And Mary started talking. She had just retired, and she goes, I want to do a marathon. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I getting into? And I was in the same 261 Fearless Club, and I'm thinking, oh no, do I want to do this? And I'm sitting there going, well, I'm on the fence. I was going to wait till I was 50 to do it because I'm like 44. And I was like, I'll wait till I'm 50 and I'm going to do a Marine Corps. And COVID was saying, I told my friend, I said, if I don't make it, you were going to run a Marine Corps marathon for me. And she was like, okay, whatever. So I finally said, okay, I'll go for it. And of course, we met Denise, and Denise is like zeroing in on you because that's what Denise does. And she goes, oh, come on in, Bika. You want to do this. And I was like, oh my God, what am I signing up for? And I thought, only thing last year that I was going to be doing is, go to work and train for marathon. And of course, I meet who's now my husband at the same time. I started dating him in March, and I was like, okay, I'm going to warn you, I'm in the middle of marathon training, and this is what's going to happen. And I was like, okay, he's either going to like this or not. And he says, okay. And he was so completely supportive. He would walk the dog in the morning. I'd get up early in the morning, do my thing. I remember getting Denise's plan, and it was like, I'm in Asheville thinking, okay, she's like, yeah, if you miss the first week, it's fine. And I look and I'm like, uh-oh. And he goes, I was like, I got to run my first 5 miles. I am running up and down a gravel trail in Asheville. Denise, this is not fun. Up and down, up and down. I mean, the neighbors must have thought I was crazy. I was like, oh my God, I got to run every day. So he's like, fine. So I'm literally running up and down a gravel trail, just getting the miles in. I'm like, I got to get these every week and make these miles. And so I did. And I have to admit, it was interesting. I'm in the middle of training for the marathon. I'm trying to plan for a wedding later on in my life. My husband's moving in. It was like every stressor, and I thankfully had Mary on the weekends because it became therapy sessions every time we ran. I was like, oh my God, Mary. And she goes, it's okay, we can do this. And Mary's actually like a really good whisperer, I should admit, because she'll be like,
Yep.
and Biga, it's miles on your feet, even if you walked it, it's okay. And I'm like, it's really hot today. And she's not joking. I mean, last year was brutal over here, and it gets pretty muggy and hot. And we told Denise, and she said, listen, I want you guys to finish your marathon and not be like, and be able to make another marathon, not be like dead for your next marathon, basically. Not in that so many words, but she meant like, I don't want you being sick and collapsing. So I'm like, oh my God. So it would be like 4 a.m. I'm getting up to do HAP training. We would get up early, 6 or 7 in the morning to do our long runs. And we did it on the same trail I know for the longest time, which is funny, where I actually live is the trail that she and I trained on. Back and forth. When I look at it, I think of all those marathon trainings back and forth on this trail. But I remember I was like, okay. And we had signed up for Richmond first, and then Marine Corps, we got Marine Corps. And so I was like, okay, if I don't, I said, well, I've already got Marine Corps, I'll go back to a half for Richmond. Well, Mary was a smart cookie. She kept her full marathon for Richmond. And the minute we found out we didn't have Marine Corps, I had to go back, pay money to get into the Richmond full. So Elian, if you do it, do the Richmond. And the Zoom calls are great. I was just telling Mary, I miss Elian. I haven't seen her in so long because she used to crack us up laughing. Yeah. I mean, you get on the Zoom calls and she would have these stories. I'm like, oh my God, she's hilarious. It was like great to listen to her on the Zoom calls. I mean, she had some stories. I was like, oh my God, she's hilarious. It was fun because you have a good support network to do all these.
You guys were my moral support team.
We miss you. It's so nice to see you again. I haven't seen you in so long. You are hilarious. I completely miss having you on the Zoom call. So I remember we did our first 20 miler, and I had to move it to a Sunday. So Mary's like, don't worry about it, we'll do it. And I realized is that everybody has like tummy issues and stuff. And I was like, okay, I'm getting Pepto-Bismol. I've never tried Imodium AD. I know people say to get that. I got Pepto-Bismol. And as we're running, my stomach was like, oh my God, this is not going to work. So I had to pop Pepto-Bismol for our 20-mile training run. And I was like, oh my God, I was hearing nightmare stories about people running to the bathroom and this. I was like, oh my God, am I going to make this marathon at all? But we did all our training. I had the goo packs. I had to learn like what shorts worked. I had to train, like they said, eat like, you know, what works in your stomach. I found out I was not, dairy was a bad thing for me. So I had to cut dairy out completely, like milk at least, and just go to an almond milk base because yeah, that was not good. I come home and I was drinking my Tailwind. I was like, why is my stomach not happy with Tailwind and milk? I was like, okay, down to water and Tailwind, water and Tailwind. I did not get blisters for my early training runs until I hit mile 20. And then I had to, I think Denise was talking about desiccant for
Yeah.
your feet. I found squirrel nut butter. I would put Glide on my toes. I had blister. Mary was getting those more than I was. I was like, what is she talking about? And I got my first one. I was like, oh my God, this is painful. So I'm like rubbing all these like things all over my feet to make sure I didn't have blisters on them. I was constantly changing my shoes. My ankle, I have a very bad left ankle. And I told Denise about it. And I was like, I had to find, we have a chiropractor, is like a miracle. He's also a runner too. Like he'll just convince you to run anyway. And so I had a chiropractor on call. I would go to see him. I had a massage person on hand. I was like, that's the only reason I think I made it through without major injuries, is just because he would like snap it in place. And I'm like, oh, okay, I can do this again. And
Yeah, because you had problems with your ankle from the beginning. So
yeah,
you had
it's
your
still
own team.
it's still stiff. I have to be careful. And I wear the UFAs around the house. It's the only thing that
Good.
keeps it. But I have to admit, I need strength training. I would definitely recommend anyone who's doing first timer do strength training, like ankles, knees, everything, just do strength training. I did not do as well as I should have. And I would recommend any first timers. Denise does a clinic on that. So right now I actually have a weight room in our house. We just bought a new house and I have a weight room and an elliptical. So I'm like, okay, I have backups to
Nice.
start weight training and stuff like that. And I did learn, I should have done Mary's peanut butter sandwich trick. I did goo gels and oh my God, real food. If you can handle real food, do the peanut butter sandwiches. I did it on a 10 miler and I think that was better for me. But Mary had the peanut butter and she was fine. I came back, I couldn't soak in the, oh, actually, hold on, let me finish what was the Mary I was supposed to tell him about the metals? So the deal with these metals, which are very lovely from Richmond, is
yeah.
they were stuck on a ship in California. And they told us, they're like, I'm sorry, when you come here, you will not have your medals. And I'm like, oh my God.
Can you
I was like,
imagine, you guys?
I'm going to run this whole thing and not have a medal at the end of it. All I have is a blanket and a hat and a shirt for it. And you were like, I'm just training for this one medal that I just want to be able to have and hold and show people. And I think they showed up, what, a month or two later, and they send you a form like, do you not want your medal? I was like, no, I want my medal. I want my medal. I do want this medal.
Quick. Yeah.
Really quickly. But
Yeah.
I remember the day of the race when we started, like she said, you know, we saw from my window, I could see the 8K runners start, and then we saw the half marathoners, and half our friends were running half, and Mary and I were doing the full. And it was fun, I will admit. Miss Denise here has a new book out called the Marathon Science.
Yeah.
Oh, it's hilarious. You are going to have more fun watching people with signs, and then you're going to look and you're like, I saw that sign at mile 20. Wait, I saw that sign at mile 10. Wait, it's at mile 14, because people will repeat the signs. And Richmond's so much fun because strangers are going, hey, good luck, you got this, you can do it. I mean, we had running coaches who trained the Richmond people who'd run with us, and we wouldn't see them again. Then they would pick up and we go, how you doing? Everything good? And I'm like, oh my God, we've got like little Denises running with us, checking up on us. But it was fun. We ran into so many people and it was nice. I did what Denise said, just enjoy it. Like, don't worry about your time, you know, unless you're trying to qualify for Boston. I was like telling Denise, I was like, do I have to qualify? And she goes, no, that's not normal. I was like, okay. I was like, because I just want to complete the marathon. I'm not trying to qualify just yet. Let me just complete it. But like Mary said, we got to mile 20. I saw my husband. I thought it was so cute when we first got up in the morning. He was more excited than I am. He was like bouncing. He's like, let's go check it out. Let's go see. I've never been to a marathon. I mean, he was so cute about it. I was like, oh my God, I'm just trying to get into my mental state. And he's all excited. He's like, little cheerleader and stuff. And when I saw him at mile 20, I thought it was the best sight ever because both our husbands are
Aw.
at mile 20 with things. I was like, oh my God. So like she said, mile 21, it was a little bit tougher. And I was like, okay. And I forgot, Mary, where was it? There was a wind. We get down this one corridor and it's windy. Oh my God. And the wind was pushing against us. And I told her, I was like, I can't run against this wind. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I've got to finish 5 miles. It's only 5 miles. I can do this. But I'm like, I cannot get past this wind. And we finally turned and I was so grateful, but it was almost like a mile or two going down this windy corridor. And it was a sunny day. It was a beautiful day. It was just this random wind corridor that showed up. So it's like, be ready for the unexpected. And as we're getting to about mile 22, 23, like, you're almost there, you're almost there. And I'm like, do not ever tell a marathoner you're almost there when you've got 3 miles. And I realize this because I have done this to poor marathoners before when I've been on the coach. Do not tell people it's around the corner when it's not around the corner. Like, you are exhausted. And I finally was like, okay. I saw Mary and I kept Mary in line of sight because she was so sweet. She would not let me go. I was like, Mary, go. She goes, no, we trained together. We are finishing this together.
Yeah.
So I see this beautiful downhill. I was like, oh yes, there it is. There's the downhill. And now Mary's ahead of me. And I don't think Mary realized it, but I was like, screw it. I am digging in. I have whatever little energy is in me. There is a finish line there and I'm going to make it. I burst out. And the joke in my running group is they used to call me Jackrabbit. I took off running down, I was like, I'm going to pass Mary. I'm sorry. I got to get through this. And this little sneaker does not mention that she's coming next to me. Next thing I see her, and we were literally running parallel. We had the same time going through the gate. She literally catches up to me. I didn't even see her. I was just like dead on straight and whoosh, and she's
That's
right next to me,
awesome.
side by side, finishing the thing. So I was like laughing. I was like, oh my God, we don't got pictures. Well, thank God our husbands were there. My husband was taking pictures of us, and you could just see us like neck and neck down.
Yeah.
It was like, oh my gosh, but she's right. I gave her a hug. I did our little selfie thing, and we went, and oh my God, that's when everything starts hurting. You feel the aches, the pains. I'm like, sorry, it happens. No, I'll tell you this because the only reason I'll tell you this, and I want you guys to be prepared. I'm not saying don't run your marathon, is to be prepared is what I didn't do. So Denise, can I tell them this, or you can yell at me later?
No.
Okay. Okay. So what I was going to tell you is when you get back to your hotel room, definitely hydrate and eat.
Yes.
I made the mistake. I went and had dinner somewhere, and I should have just stayed in my hotel, stayed put, and drink your water, do your ice bath. I got in like 30 seconds later. My poor husband had hauled 3 buckets of ice into the tub, and I was like, oh, I knew. He's like, honey, you got to get in. I was like, oh, no. He's like, I hauled 3 buckets of ice for you. And I was like, get in there, soak in the tub, eat properly, hydrate up. Because what they don't tell you is after the marathon is your body's got to recover the fuel and stuff like that. And you need to have all that your body's just been through it's been a lot. I mean, it's mentally and physically a lot. And I remember I was on a phone call with Denise, and I forgot the gentleman you were with. You were driving from Chicago to Arizona.
Sean.
That was the best phone call, Denise. I mean, you guys are so sweet about it. Cause I'm like going, what did I do wrong? Because I'm thinking, oh my God, there's nothing in Denise's book. I'm looking through the book. I'm on the internet. I'm like, how do I recover? Like, they don't tell you about this. And it was more like, be prepared. Like Mary said, have the Motrin. I would say keep the Pepto-Bismol just in case. Just be prepared. I mean, you may have the best marathon ever, or you may not have the best marathon ever, but you are going to finish the marathon because that's the goal and you want to finish it. It's just the recovery. Just be prepared to have everything ready in the hotel room for you, ready to go, and just crash, enjoy. Like, you just run a marathon. You may have a lot of energy. You might be tired. You're exhausted, but take care of yourself because that's more important. It's your first marathon and you have trained for like 20 weeks to get to that point. I'm not scaring him, Denise, I promise.
No, you're not.
But, yeah, have the UFAs ready, have everything ready, because that's the one thing I wish I had known when I got to the tail end was, okay. And Denise and I, we were talking about it after. She goes, I don't know. She realized it was because I hadn't fueled up correctly and I hadn't hydrated correctly, because I was like,
you couldn't eat that day, right? Because
I couldn't eat that day. I think I had my bagel in the morning, but I thought I hydrated enough.
The day before you had something funky.
Yeah,
You didn't have an appetite, race day.
I didn't have we couldn't eat the pasta dinner, and I couldn't finish it, and I was like, I need to eat. I know I need to eat, but I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And we weren't sure if I had been sick or what had happened. So just, keep eating and hydrating the whole week. Like start with the tailwind and just keep doing it, or whatever you need to. The tailwind definitely helps. Have the tailwind in your system a couple days, 4 or 5 days, whenever Denise tells you to do it, because I'm not joking. Afterwards, I was like, oh my God. And I'm thinking, like, what did I do wrong? So now I know for next time what to do for when I do this again. Okay, this is what I need to prepare for next time afterwards. Like, I have to suck it up and do the cold ice bath. I have a friend of mine who does runs, and she's like, you have to do the ice baths. You have to do these things.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, but it's worth it. I mean, I saw that beautiful finish line. I was like, yes, I finished it. And it's funny. My deputy director, I was in a meeting and we were talking, somebody was talking about swimming, and he goes, oh yeah, and Vika's a marathoner. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, she was marathons. And I'm like, I run one marathon. He goes, and she's trying to convince me to run a marathon. And he's in the Army. I was like, and that's this week. I mean, people will go up and go, well, you've run a marathon. And I'm like, this is, like Mary said, 6 months later, it's like, oh my God, people are like, you ran a marathon? Oh my God, that's so cool. Like, only 1% of the group has done a marathon. Yeah, I had 2 people actually bring it up. And I was like, that's amazing that people are bringing things up that you did. Like, we calculate 6 months from today is when we did our marathon. It was November 13th. And I remember wearing this finisher jacket. We came back up on the next day, and we went to Virginia Kitchen. And this guy looked at me with the sun. He goes, you ran the marathon? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, how did he know? Well, I had my jacket on. Well, the guy who was checking me out goes, you ran a marathon? How was it? How was it cool? Oh my God, that's so cool. You ran a marathon. And I was telling Mary, I was like, wow. I was like, this is crazy. I'm wearing this jacket for the first time. And people were like, you ran a marathon? Oh my, I mean, random strangers were coming up to me. And I was like, that's kind of cool. At least I feel like I'm vindicated. Like, this is so cool. Like, I ran a marathon. So that is my sort of story. But yes, it was great. I have to admit, Mary was fantastic. She got me through that. She got me through my wedding. She got me through a lot. I mean, if I can get through it with that much stuff going on in my life, anybody can get through it. I mean, you just focus on the training. And I printed Denise's schedule out. I had it taped. I had her 26.2 sticker, Run for Change, on my I didn't tell you this, on my bedroom. And I had like a list of things like, I can do this, I can do this. Like Mary was like, you're getting up what most people don't get up in the morning, you're doing. Yeah. And I would sit there and I'd cross off everything. And if you're having a bad week and you're not sure, talk to Denise. She was nice. She's like, listen, you can take off a couple of days, catch up. But I did not miss any of my long runs. Even when I got married that Saturday, Mary and I were running. It's like, I got married on a Thursday. It's like, I have to run on Saturday because I have my schedule to keep up. That's what it was. I was like, I got up and I had to run those runs. I I was like, I am not missing my runs. We were doing all these runs. So as long as you should definitely make the long runs, because like she said, that is where you're going to make all the, you're going to figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And like Mary said, you're going to have good times or bad times, but then you realize everybody else has gone through that. So you're like, okay, I could still do this. So now that I've rambled on, does anyone have any questions?
No, that's awesome. And
thank you, Denise.
No,
I really appreciate you coaching. It's been fantastic. And I hope to do it again. It's probably going to be next year because unfortunately I've got a lot going on right now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, good things going on, but yeah, I need to get my, I have to get back onto my training and start up again. So.
Well, I'm here when you're ready, but you do have a half on your plate.
I did. I had to cancel though because I can't make it. I got so much things going on, so I need to try for another one later.
We'll find one. It's okay when your schedule clears. But I love that you said, when things, just like Joanna had mentioned that, at some points in the training, your body and mind just may be overwhelmed and you need a break. And I am one for it. It's like a reset, and it usually happens about maybe 5 or 6 weeks before the race, because you guys have had your eye on the prize for so long. And it's like, you just need, you truly need a mental and physical reset. So, yeah, for my runners, it's like we just stay in touch and I'm there for you throughout the whole thing. Okay, so next up we have Tyler who just joined us. And let me see.
Yeah.
Are you there, Tyler? Okay,
All
go
right.
ahead.
Hi everyone. Sorry, I missed the start, so I'm in the process of moving tomorrow. So I jumped on for part of it. I just listened to two wonderful ladies talk for half an hour. So does anyone have any questions that you really are dying to get answered before I start talking?
Or you
If
can
not,
just,
I'll go in.
I forgot to mention that, like you can put any questions in the chat and we'll touch on them.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'm happy to just launch into my story. My goal is to do it in less than 5-10 minutes here. But mine, I think, sounds a little bit different than the last two ladies I talked that were talking. So my name's Tyler. I'm 34. I live here in Chicago, and I ran high school in track and cross country. But I was never an off-season runner. I would run during the season, had fun doing it, would run like half my races JV, half my races varsity, and kind of always strived to do a marathon, but never really knew when the right time was. And I went to school for 7 years, including grad school. And so I this year had a lot of downtime. I was just looking for something with the pandemic to like stay busy with. And I was like, this is better time than ever to run the marathon. And so I volunteer with One Tail at a Time, which is a dog shelter in Chicago. And they have a marathon team. They get 50 entries or more through the charity to run. And so I signed up with them. And so not only did I get to run my first marathon, but I got to raise over $2,000 for the dog shelter that I volunteer at
Awesome.
very often. And so that's how I got started. And that's how I met Denise. It was suggested through the group to either join like one of the area runner associations or Denise. So I joined with Denise, and very happy that I did for a lot of reasons. But my experience was basically the first day I showed up to Denise's group, I had run the recommended, I'd gotten up to a minimum of 15 miles a week before meeting on June 1st. I was at least at a 5-mile run. But to be honest, like I hadn't really done any long runs. I mean, I hadn't run 10 miles since high school.
Oh
So
my gosh.
to like get to that point of 15 miles a week, like took a lot of work and a lot of commitment, but I still wasn't in. And then by July, I think we ran our first 10-mile run, and that was like the first milestone. I ran 10 miles. Then it was like, I remember running my first half marathon at a Saturday long run one time. And that was like the next big milestone. And that was awesome. And that half marathon that I ran on my own on the lake shore, timed, like pushing myself to it, was kind of my first big wake up call. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm doing like pretty good at this. So it pushed myself. So when I signed up, like my goal was, I'm not going to just run this marathon. Like I'm going to like put in as much effort as I can, because I don't want to just cross the finish line. Like I want to actually like run this and be proud of it. And so my goal is always to work hard at it. And I exceeded my expectations. And I think a big part of that, like to put in a plug, was like having a committed group to run with and having the training plan that Denise set me up with. And contrary to maybe some of the other runners, I don't know everyone's story, but I literally did not miss a mile that was on that schedule. I think I had 3 runs out of the entire June to marathon day pathway that I didn't finish what was scheduled. So I ran everything to a T. I ran every like speed workout as hard as I could. I dealt with injuries when they occurred, but like I didn't make any excuses. And in the end, I mean, fast forward to the end, I ran a 3:41:59, and my goal was a 3:30. Like, but that was like a hard goal. When I actually signed up for the marathon, not knowing what a marathon was like, not knowing what a time was like, I actually signed up in a 4:30 slot. And I think it was that half marathon that I talked about in July where I was like, okay, I'm going to run faster than 4:30. And then my goal was 4 hours. And then I was like, okay, I can do way better than that. And then when I ran the first or second day of practice or second Saturday long run, I met 2 ladies. So I'm 34. I met a 45-year-old Kate, and I met 26-year-old Brianna, and those were my two running buddies the entire season. So every Saturday we met on the lake shore and we ran and we got it done. And Brianna ended up breaking 3:20, I think 3:24 she ran. Kate met her goals and expectations, and like we just killed it together. So I think if you follow the plan, if you put in a lot of desire, like you will run the time that you want to run. And I never thought that I would run another after this, but I'm signed up for Chicago a second time. I tried to get into New York. So my goal this year, I have two goals. My goals are I'm not going to kill myself and try to follow every workout to a T. I'm going to go into it with a little bit more of a relaxed attitude. I did have a little, I don't want to talk too much about injuries because they happen. I think I wouldn't call it injuries. I would call it growing pains. And I think everybody has that. But I like dealt with the pains as they came, and you find ways to work around them and deal with them. And I had some knee pain that popped up during the marathon. That was a little unexpected, but so my goal this year is to run more races. So I signed up. I have a half in June. I have a half in July, and then Chicago Marathon. And then my goal is to run one marathon after Chicago, which will probably be Madison or Indianapolis, TBD. But yeah, the goal is to just run more. So my favorite part of the whole process was the workouts and sticking to a regimen. It wasn't the race. The race was fun, but I went into the race like all business, and I got a little bit of excitement, like just from the crowd and looking around. But the way I look at the experience is like, it was really cool to get to experience my first marathon. I did that. I looked around, saw the signs, had fun. But to me, it's more like, okay, now I know what I need to do to focus on the next one. And if I'm going to go through all the effort to run another marathon and train, like I'm going to try to improve my time. So to me, it's like sticking to the blue line that runs down the center. That's like the shortest possible distance, not looking left and right at everybody, and just focusing on my path and focusing on my stride and my breath, and drinking less water on the track because it was so hot that day that like I didn't need as much as I took in. So to me, it was all business, and like, yeah, it was a fun experience, but that's done. And now it's like, what can I do and achieve next? So I'm looking forward to the next steps. But that's my long and short story, but I'm happy to answer any questions before I pop off here.
Awesome. Thanks, Tyler.
Sure.
And so when you first signed up with One Tail, did you think you'd just be a one and doneer?
I kind of knew, like in the back of my mind, like knowing myself, that I was probably going to want to beat my time. Whatever time I set, I was probably going to want to do it again. And I do remember on race day, my cousin was the only person that came and saw me run. And he was following along me on the bike. And the hardest part of the whole race was 23 mile. And that was when my knee pain set in, like the runner's like tendonitis. And I remember telling him, like, this hurts. Like, why the hell did I do this? Like, why would I do this? And I think I probably said something like, I'll never do this again. But like, I knew deep down that I would do it again, because like, that's just my nature, is to want to run like a better time the next time. So I definitely think I can beat my last time. If it wasn't so hot, and if I didn't have the pains that I did, like, I think like you and I had talked about, I think I need to like do less miles in the last week or two. And I think I'll be more ready for it. So I think a new attitude going into this next one, and if I don't, it's no big deal. Like, this is fun to me. So it just keeps me busy. Yeah.
And it's like every run, every race, we learn what works, what doesn't. Before you jump off, thanks for joining the call. Just real quick, what's one word to describe your first marathon?
Oh shit. What did I use? When I wrote my review with you, I think I used the word, I was very nostalgic at the time. Like, my attitude's very different right now, but I think I said like formidable or something like it was like formative. That's the word I used. Like, it like pushed me to want to like do more. Like, I mean, there was a time in September where I was like, damn, I feel like an Ironman right now. Like I could sign up for an Ironman and I think I could do it. And like a little bit of knee pain on the marathon. And I was like, yeah, okay, that was stupid of me to think that way. But like, I mean, like, I think I can do it. I'm not a huge believer in like anything you believe, but I mean, I've talked about this over and over. And if anybody, I think I talked about this during one of our groups, was Chris Nikic story. So if any of you
Yeah.
guys are looking for some inspiration, there's this awesome like this kid named Chris Nikic, Nikic. Google him or YouTube him, and he's the first man with Down syndrome that ever finished an Ironman, and he did it in the allotted time. And I follow him on social media now, like, and I watched him, I think, for the first time in like June or July. And like, if that doesn't motivate you and push you to do something, like, then you're broken. So I don't know. It's really cool. So, yeah, I mean, I think like the one word is just like whatever word you can use or adjective you can use to like motivate yourself to do more like later on. So, I just hope I feel a little behind schedule right now, but that's because like I've never been like an off-season runner. I can't run year round because I live in this crappy cold place, and one of these days I'll turn into an all year runner. But right now I'm just not it. So I'm like starting off. I feel like from square zero, like from square one, and like drinking a beer during this talk right now. Like, okay, put the beer down and it's time to start running. Like even last week I had a great running week, and then this week I fell off because I'm packing all week, and then it's like next week will be all business. So you guys will have your weeks, and if you want it, just push through it. And it's really nice to stay on a schedule, but don't kill yourself if you miss a run or two, and you'll still be able to show up on marathon day.
Awesome. Thanks, Tyler, and I'll see you soon.
All right, thanks, Denise. Bye, everyone.
Okay.
Good luck.
Awesome. And real quick, Carrie had a great question about what's the difference between being in your aerobic zone and anaerobic zone. Angie had kind of talked about that on her marathon. She did most of it in an anaerobic zone, and that's where you're without oxygen. So your breathing is super taxed. So an aerobic zone is like a pace where you can talk the whole time. So real quick, we got one more no longer first timer who is able to join us, and that's Joyce.
Hi, everyone. Did you see my message, Denise? I know you were probably getting on the call, but I showed up late too, and I just wanted to apologize for that because I was coaching a lacrosse game and the bus got lost and we got a later start, and it's a long story, but I missed the beginning. So I'm sorry if like what I'm going to say feels repetitive because I don't know what everyone else has.
Kind of share your story, what it was like, what your like running background was, some of the like roses from the training, thorns from the training, and what race day was like.
Okay, yeah. So a little bit about my background. Like I've always like been an athlete and played sports. I played field hockey and track in high school. I only ran the 800 and I wasn't like great. I just mostly was trying to do it to stay in shape for field hockey. And then just like through my adult life, I continued to play field hockey. So I've been in like just like a women's league, and I would play on Sundays, and I never did any running in between or practices or anything. It was just like me and a bunch of other women, and we would just show up on Sundays and play our game. And sometimes I would really struggle to make it through the 2 25-minute halves. And my parents run, and my brother and my sister. So I guess like throughout my life, like we would sign up and do like a 5K on the 4th of July or a turkey trot in November, but like not every year, just kind of like here and there. And then, so like a 5K was probably my max. Like if I was ever going to just go for a run for fun, it would never be more than 3 miles. Like that was all I would ever do. And then my brother is actually the one who got more involved in running, and he signed up to do a half marathon and he did it. And then of course I had to follow and do it too, because I couldn't have him do one and feel like I couldn't do it. So I did it. And one of the things that always like frustrated me about myself, and I always told myself that I didn't have any self-discipline, is that I would sign up for races that were longer than 5K. Like I've done 10 milers and I've done half marathons. And I would sign up with the intention that this event would inspire me to train so that I would be prepared for it. And I would go out for like 1 or 2 runs, and that would be really it. And then I would just show up at the race and suffer through it. And I've never not finished, but I made it so much harder on myself than it ever needed to be because I just never trained. And running a half marathon on 0 training is a nightmare, and I don't recommend it whatsoever. But I'm stubborn, and it's like, well, I paid and I signed up and everyone else is doing it, so I'm just going to show up and do it. And so because I did that multiple times, I started to kind of lose faith in myself and in my ability to have the discipline that it would take to do even a half marathon with training. So one of the best things about having completed my first marathon is it changed how I feel about myself. I now know, like I used to go around telling people that I didn't have any self-discipline. And now I feel like I'm in amazement at how much discipline I actually have, because I knew from how painful a half marathon was without training that a marathon distance was not something that you could do. Like I couldn't just show up and fake it and run it. Like I knew that I would actually have to get serious, and I needed to prove to myself that I could keep the promises that I made to myself, because I was always very good at keeping my word with everyone else. You know, if I told somebody I was going to do something, I would do it. And being somebody that was trustworthy and that would keep her word was something that was important to me. But what I realized is that I wasn't doing it for myself. So anyway, my brother ran a full marathon in I think 2016, and he kind of suffered through it, honestly. And he trained, but he got injured on his 20-mile long run. And then I can't remember what it's called, but it can be very dangerous when you're doing a lot of sweating and you only replace the water and not the electric.
Hyponatremia?
Yes. So he had a little bit of that day because he was only drinking water. So he was replacing his fluid, but he wasn't replacing his electrolyte. And it was like pretty scary for a little bit until we figured out what it was. And so watching him and seeing that he wasn't like feeling great at the end was not selling me on ever wanting to run a marathon. So like, I really, truly did not. And I remember for a good number of years saying like, there's nothing in me that would want to run a marathon for fun. Like that just seems crazy. 26 miles seems too far for a person to like want to run. So that's that. But then I started with a colleague of mine. I'm a high school teacher, and one of my colleagues started running half marathons, but we would recruit students to do it. So we kind of formed like a high school club, and we call it the half marathon team. So he did it in 2018. I did it with him in 2019. And then we all know what happened in 2020. So that nothing happened then. And then in 2021, we did it, but we only had just a couple of kids because most of them were learning remotely, so that we weren't really doing anything in person. And then this year we did it, and we had the most number of students we've ever had. We had 10 students and 2 faculty members who ran the half marathon. So anyway, I got more involved with half marathon training. And once I felt like I was pretty comfortable with that distance, I really started flirting with the idea that maybe I could do a half. So while I was a full. So while I was half marathon training and these thoughts started to creep into my mind, I have a subscription to Audible, and I got Denise's book. And so I would listen to it while I was running, and just listening to her and listening to the testimony of like the runners that you feature through the book, I started thinking like, if all these people can do it, like I 100% can do it. Like it really made me believe that I could. So I ended up registering for the New Jersey Marathon last year, which was scheduled for October 21st of 2021. And I got my plan from Denise, and I started running, and I'm a teacher, like I said. So the training, a bulk of the training was in the summer, which was really great because I'm off in the summer. So I had a lot of flexibility in the summer with my schedule. So even if I had to kind of shift things around, I was able to get the miles in. But then about halfway through my plan, New Jersey Marathon announced that they were canceling the marathon altogether. So then I was kind of scrambling for a new marathon because I had it in my head that I was going to do it. So the Atlantic City Marathon in New Jersey happened to be the same day as the New Jersey Marathon. But at that point, I was kind of also considering running the Philadelphia Marathon because I only live about 15 minutes outside of Philadelphia. And everyone said that that's such like a fun marathon because it's like way more people than Atlantic City. So I spent a lot of time in anguish, like which one of these races should I do? And ultimately my decision was Atlantic City. And truly the only reason was because the Atlantic City Marathon was the same day that the New Jersey Marathon was going to be. And that was what my plan was. And I didn't want to have to adjust like my plan. I didn't want to have to push the plan out any farther because the Philly Marathon would have been in November, not in October.
yeah.
So that was really the whole reason. And I'll say this, like when I was in your shoes and it was my first time, I was so nervous about the actual marathon. And I felt like I was trying to devour any information about it. I mean, I was reading books. I was attending the Zoom calls with Denise every week. I was asking people that I met who run marathons. Like I made it out to be this impossible thing that I couldn't believe I was going to try to tackle. And what I found is that once I actually got to Atlantic City and started running, it was way more fun than I thought it was going to be. And it went by a lot faster. So you read a lot, everyone talks about the wall and you like read about the wall, then you're going to hit the wall. And so I found myself running faster than I thought I would, running with more ease than I thought I would. But I kept waiting for the shoe to drop. Like, where's the wall? Like, where is it going to be? Like, what's going to happen to me? And every mile that went by, and a lot of my family members were there. So I was really grateful for that. Like my parents and my husband and my kids and my in-laws and my sister-in-law and my aunt. I mean, I had like 50 people.
Didn't they have shirts?
They had shirts for Boston. They didn't have shirts for Atlantic City for my first one. So I had a ton of people and my sister has really little kids. So it was hard for her to move around on the course. So they kind of stayed put, but some of my tribe was like moving all along and seeing me in multiple spots and I would stop and they would give me Gatorade and I would hug them and kiss them. And it was like, that part was really fun. And they kept saying like, you look like you're fine. You look good. And I'm like, I know, I can't believe it. Like, I feel good too. Like, I don't know. I thought I was going to just like be suffering and in agony the whole time. And then I got to a point where I was looking at my pace. And I think one of my favorite things about your first marathon is you do not have to have expectations on yourself. Like, just finish it. Yeah. I'm guilty of the fact that I did sort of set a goal and I didn't really want to say it out loud, but in my heart, I wanted to run a sub-4 marathon for my first time. And that was like my goal. So
and beat your brother's time.
I did. Well, my brother did it in just under 4.
Because I remember
I wanted to do that too, but I kept thinking that like I couldn't because I have friends that have all run marathons and most of them had a hard time. Like they couldn't get under 4. And I thought, well, if they can, I probably can. And why would I even think I can? But in my heart, that's what I wanted. So, you know, I'm going and I keep waiting for this wall to come and I keep waiting to feel like I can't do it. And the miles were going by and I started to do the math and I just kept calculating numbers and paces in my head because I'm like, I'm going to do this in less than 4 hours. And then by mile 20, I was like, I actually might qualify for Boston today on my like first try. So I will say that mile 17, mile 18, mile 19, I felt great. Mile 20 came and I felt okay. But by the time I got to like 21, 22, 23, I felt like I was running out of steam a little bit, but the absolute shock and astonishment that I felt like I was within like striking distance of a BQ is what kept me going because I just not in a million years would have ever considered that to be a thing. But I kept doing the math. I'm like, it's going to happen. I feel like it's going to happen. So anyway, I finished and I did it in 3:39. So that was well under what I had for a goal for myself. And for me, a BQ would have been 3:50. So I was significantly under what I needed. And I just started to cry when I crossed the finish line because it's like all of the emotion, like, so it's funny because Tyler, who was just on ahead of me, a lot of what he said, I felt like I agreed with, but I think the part that he described that's 100% the opposite for me is that he said he enjoyed the training more. And I feel like he was like all business for like the actual race. But for me, it was the exact opposite. Like for me, the training runs were where it was like business for me. Like I got to figure out my nutrition and I got to figure out where am I chafing and where's the body fat? And I got to figure out what to eat the night before. And I got to figure out my shoes and I got to figure out, first of all, just making courses 17, 18, 19 miles, like around my neighborhood to figure it out. Like that was all so much work. And honestly, the thing that's so hard about a training run is you're by yourself. I never did a group run. And I think that was probably to my benefit a little bit because I didn't rely on the company of others to help the time go by. I had to figure out how to just be by myself with the miles and put the time in and do it. And it's funny because now I've branched out a little bit and I have started kind of meeting up with groups and talking while I'm running. And I find that the time goes by faster and it's just a different experience. But I think for my first time, it was nice that it was just me. Like I did it all by myself and I figured it out all by myself, of course, with your help. But I'm saying like for the runs, I did that all alone. And what I realized is what's harder about the training is all of the things that I worry about when I'm training. I worry about like nutrition a little bit. I worry, am I hydrated enough? I worry, like, am I going to have to go to the bathroom while I'm running? And so I always feel like I want to have a plan, like what's nearby that I'm going to be able to, like, there's a park nearby. So there's porta potties there. So a lot of times, like, I'll kind of keep looping back around so that I'm within a few miles of having to go to the bathroom if I have to. And the best part about a marathon, you have people cheering for you by name. So you maybe have already covered this earlier in the call, but please write your name on your shirt because the strangers will cheer for you as if they know you, like with that kind of intensity. And it's so energizing, honestly. And it's the only time where you're going to run that far and people are there to support you and hand you Gatorade and hand you water and hand you nutrition. And there's porta potties every couple of miles. And that feels like a security blanket to me to know any of the things that I'm worried about might happen or I might need are here. They're here. I don't have to like worry about anything. But when you go on a 20-mile training run by yourself through your neighborhood, that's not really the case. And so to me, that's the best part of a marathon. To me, the hardest part was my 20-mile long run. The hardest part was really digging deep to try to like, you get to a point like where you're in your highest mileage month of training where it starts to get really hard. Like you're running a lot of miles. For me, I felt tired, but the actual marathon itself is just so energizing with the energy of the other runners, with the energy of the crowd that's there to cheer for you. And it felt like the actual marathon just felt like the celebration. The work for me felt like the training and the marathon felt like the party. Like I was talking to other runners, like I can't imagine that you would do anything else in your whole life that's as rewarding. And, so that I didn't know if I was going to be a first timer or not. And there were some of my training runs where I thought, oh, hell no, I'm not doing this again. This is so crazy. And then I did it. And so if you're going to ask me what my word is, I feel like it might be addictive because I went from being a first timer in October of 2021 and 6 months later, I've now run 3 full. I ran Atlantic City, I ran Philly, and I just finished the Boston Marathon. And that was probably the greatest day of my whole life. And I am grateful and lucky that I got into New York City. So I'll be running New York City later this year. And I'm hoping that next year I'll run Chicago. So that's my plan.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Joyce.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, you guys gratefully have stayed on this long. Thank you so much. Thank you to all my panelists. Oh my God, I just want to drop the mic. You guys don't need me anymore. You are great whisper coaches. There were a couple things. Oh, real quick, Mary, what's your one word to describe your marathon?
Oh, okay, it's two, but it is just confidence building. Like when I finish that now, I feel like I just have power to do so much. I mean, I just feel maybe empowered. I really feel that, if there's anything, it's like, yeah, I can do it. I can do it. I got it.
I love it. Ileana, are you still on?
Yep, I'm here.
What's your one word to describe your first marathon?
Wow. We'll say purpose.
Awesome.
Yeah. You have to have a purpose. You have to have a purpose to run a marathon.
Yeah. And then Joanna, what one word would you use to describe your first marathon?
You got me here. I never did that homework. I'm sorry. I think I couldn't decide. It's why I was like, okay.
You can hyphenate it. Like mine is life igniting.
Life igniting. Let's see. What do I have? I have something on my shoe. It's always inspiring. I think it's never give up, or I don't know, inspire or believe. I think never give up. It's my be strong, never give up.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm like, this is difficult to decide for
I
me.
should have gave you guys the questions beforehand. Ambika, what would be your one word?
Oh, I want to say it was I learned how to dig in deep. I know that's not one word. And I'll say the only reason is because after my marathon, I had to dig in deep to get ready to sell my house, move out, everything. And every time I got to those points in my life, those milestones, I was like, I did a marathon, and that mentally just made me stronger and fortitude. So now whenever I face a challenge, I'm like, I did a marathon, I can do anything.
Yes.
So
awesome. Well, real quick, if anyone has any questions, you can put them in the chat, or feel free to send me a message on Instagram, Marathon Whisperer. That's how you can find me if you haven't found me already. I can answer any of your questions. And then for those of you guys that are signed up for your first marathon, or any of my no longer first timers, if you know someone in your circle who wants to do a marathon, I still have a couple charities that I coach that have entries for Chicago. So reach out to me. And then, like I mentioned to Ileana, MasterCard has entries for the New York Marathon, and I will be there. And then I just have to say, I'm so excited for you guys. One of the gifts, or like I said, one of the many things that I love about the season is that, again, you guys are going to be you probably already have inspired people in your circle. So I'm going to leave you with this. You too can do 262. Okay, thank you all. You know where to find me.
Can I add up one thing? I forgot to mention. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So I was when I was listening to everyone who was talking about this experience running, I forgot to add, guys, make sure you share your excitement with someone like your close friend or someone who can cheer you up besides having like your group to train. Because Denise, I'll tell you this, I didn't give a credit to Pete, my partner, who I would wake up sometimes at 4 a.m. I would be tired, and he's like waking up with me, hey, baby, your alarm clock is up, your coach is waiting for you, your team is waiting for you, you need to go, you can't push like snooze. And and I would be like sometimes tired. He's like, he would get up and make coffee for me. I was like, okay, you're good to go.
Oh, what a saint.
It's beautiful. Yeah. And then the marathon day, Brad, it's nice to have you friends, if you have friends with you or someone, because they surprise you. I didn't know my friends show up when I was so tired on mile 16. I'm like, Maggie with broken leg, casket, sitting with a dog and pom-poms cheering for me, running. I'm like, that was so energizing, saying like there's someone who like, you know, so I shared with friends. I wasn't expecting anything from anyone. And when you share this excitement with friends, they're excited with you, they'll come support you. And we had a grouper running dog. And I remember being so tired too, like getting tired, you know, that the mile 20, you're like, okay, oh, a little bit more. And then in my mind, set yourself something like goal in the mind, because then I was starting that being tired. I thought like, wait, there's a grouper waiting for us at mile 20 something.
Yeah.
It made me so happy that I spotted this dog from a few like meters. I'm like, there he is with his owner. And got a photo with grouper, and that was very helpful. So yeah, you guys always look for some extra thing. It's very helpful on a mountain course.
It's gonna be awesome.
And knowing that the coach is running with you, it's also very empowering.
Yeah. My favorite day of the year, tied with the girls on the Run 5K.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you guys, and have a great night. I'm here
Thanks.
for you.
Have fun at
Thanks,
Girls on the
Denise.
Run.
Thanks.
Good luck
Thank
to
you so
everyone.
much.
Good luck, everybody.
Thank you.